Yeah.
Oh, she's frozen. Scott left long ago. That's gonna be really expensive. Hey, John, how are you? Okay. Yeah.
Are we okay to go? I know. I do make it anyway.
You should have me look at it.
It's 10:30.
Yeah, you said 10:30. Yeah, you said 10:30. I got it. I will be there.
It should have been either we or Charlie. You are for it again. So what do you think? Is it going out? Because you could just get it. You are by hand. Because you can send a quick one. Sorry.
I did that for you last night.
It's Thursday.
Did he have to say how long it is?
It's Thursday.
Yeah, how long that meeting? Didn't say how long it is.
6.
Okay, that's good. I will be here. Oh. We just call it. No, that's what that is.
Oh, let's just get started. They're trying to get just. What was that?
I went down to get a ticket. So I was like, well, I'll make it on that.
I have nothing to apologize. No, I have nothing to apologize for. It's 7:02.
Thanks.
You're warm, or it's not gonna be here, so you can turn that thermostat down.
Oh, yeah. Nah, I think it's some stairs give me. I got you, bro.
Maybe we could reboot the camera.
Okay, so this one was kind of.
Yeah, she's not bad. Come in here, she got her messes off.
Scott, should I turn off the camera and turn it on again?
Oh, wait, no. It's.
Oh.
No, I got it. The person is running for the. It's just super slow. Right, I mean, you have audio, it's being recorded, so. I think it is.
Damn.
So your phone like. So that.
All right, folks, so despite our technical difficulties, we will go ahead and get this meeting started. It is 7:05 p.m. If we can start with a moment of silence, please. And if we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just as a reminder, if you happen to have a cell phone on you, please make sure that it's off or turned on silent, please. City Clerk Domingo, if you'll take roll call for us, please.
Councilmember Williams,
Present.
Reed, Jackson,
Here.
Lawler, Davis,
Here.
French,
Here.
and Mayor Snyder.
Here. Do I have a motion to approve of the agenda?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bef-
French.
Sorry, thank you. Given the result of this morning's Economic Development Corporation meeting, I would like to strike item G. Since we don't have a director of our or president of our Albion Economic Development Corporation, I don't see the relevance of discussing or approving this particular motion, since we don't have somebody in that position for the current. So I'd like to strike that from our agenda.
Do I have a support?
Support.
City Clerk Domingo, you can take roll call for us on that, please.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler, Davis,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes, so item D is removed from the agenda. Okay, so we will go ahead and begin this meeting with presentations and recognitions. First off, we will start with the swearing of brand new officer Ethan Miller. So if Ethan Miller and Chief Kip would like to come forward.
Doesn't need to be sworn in because he's been working for a week already, but. So I had to get that done before we could do that part of it, but I want to present him with his oath of office that he took
Monday.
last Monday. Yep. So Ethan grew up in Jackson. He went to school in Michigan Center. I just found out that he's 19 years old, so he's as old as my oldest son. So that's a new one for me. But we're excited to have him here. He graduated from the police academy on the 8th and passed his MCOS exam. So he's a fully certified police officer, and he still needs to go to the fire academy. So he'll be doing that starting this fall.
All right, wonderful. Ethan, would you like to say a few words?
I'm just thankful for being here. Thankful Chief gave me an opportunity to be here and work with you guys. Try to make your community better.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that. And welcome to our community, Ethan. We look forward to great things with your public safety work.
Thank you.
All right, next, we will have a presentation on our Albion Senior Housing Commission. Tom Hunsdorfer, Juanita Solis, and Mayor LaDuncklin. Please come on up. The floor is yours.
Need our names and addresses.
No, sir.
So isn't this the thorn between two roses?
Yes.
So I am Juanita Solis Kidder, 1211 Edward Street.
I'm Neola Duckman, 707 Huntington Boulevard.
And I'm Tom Hunsdorfer, 803 South Superior Street, and appreciate the time you are offering to us this evening. We're here representing the Albion Senior Housing Commission. And there are 8 of us who have been appointed to that commission going back a little over 3 years. And we have most of the rest of us here, if I can ask them to stand up. If you are in any way involved with the Senior Housing Commission. Among our other 8 members are Ken Pons and Mary Slater, Karen Yankee, Dave Farley, and Eddie Williams. Eddie has a health issue and couldn't be here with us tonight. And also we have Linda Wado and Joe Verbeek, our ex officio members. They volunteered as professional realtors to give us advice as we are working with a developer who's looking at properties. And who am I missing? Marcia Starkey and Linda Colmadin have been part-time help from the Albion Community Foundation, helping the project move forward. And I'm going to talk more than I should, and my 2 colleagues here will elbow me if I get really far off track. As most of you will know, the Senior Housing Commission is looking to establish market rate housing for people 60 and older in our community. A grant was provided in 2019 from the Senior Millage Allocation Committee. That's one of my other hats, is I'm chairing that body now, and we are looking for innovative ways to support seniors to stay in their home communities, to age in place, and having housing for seniors in our area to keep them in town rather than going to Chelsea or Dexter or somewhere else. We feel it's an important goal. This was a grant of $150,000 that has helped pay for site visits, for identifying developers. The press release that went out last October that's in your packet mentions that the developer that we have been working with, we started looking at a couple, is now called BRIO, B-R-I-O Living Services. For a long time, it was United Methodist Retirement Community. And they are a nonprofit that operates 18 different senior facilities all over the state of Michigan, ranging from independent living, which is what we're talking about initially, to hospice care and kind of everything in between. In the last census, probably last year when it was updated, it said we've got a population of about 8,000, a little more than that in Albion. And of that, 1,499 are people 60 and older. It's a good chunk of the population. Our hope is that the development that we think is going to come relatively soon from our work will be a model for other communities in Calhoun County. There are places like nursing homes, assisted living in other parts of the county, but there really isn't an independent living complex just for adults 60 and older. We were pleased to see that both the city and the Albion EDC set as a goal establishing more high quality housing for people of all income levels and all phases of life or ages. Because we feel that we are one complement to the full housing picture in our community. This selection of Real Living Services was announced last October. And for us, it's the culmination of about 20 years of work by volunteers in our community. Different groups going back as far as Sue Marcos when she was with the Chamber of Commerce. Mary Slater has worked on different housing initiatives for older adults for 7-8 years. It's been a long time coming. We think it is coming. There were originally 14 sites that we helped the developer identify, and the city was very supportive in this, saying, here are properties that might be available that are within a mile or a mile and a half of downtown, which is something that many people are interested in. And some of those 14 were ruled out pretty quickly by developers because they were too small or there was a contaminant in the soil. So the list has been narrowed down. It's something I wish I could tell you, here's where it's going to be, but that's not our job. There's ultimately a developer working with the community who makes the selection about where it's going to go. We think it is likely that a decision will be made in a relatively few months. The likely project will have approximately 50 units of independent living housing. That would be both 1 and 2 bedroom cottages or standalone facilities, as well as 1 apartment building. The plan is that within a year or 2 after that gets started, that there would be a companion assisted living facility to come with it. Because very often people have, okay, you know, I'm going to be in this little house for the rest of my life, but then something happens and they need the next step of assisted living. So we hope that on the same site, once that is decided, that both of these opportunities will be there. I think our ultimate goal is to keep the older adults of Albion in this community. People who worked in our foundries, people who taught in our schools, people who worked in businesses all over this community, people who supported the churches, the people on whose shoulders we now stand. I can't speak for Juanita and Mayola, but I keep hearing from people, I don't want to have to move out of Albion, but I've reached that age where I need to downsize from my big house. I've got an artificial hip. I need to use a walker. I have things going on. I can't shovel snow anymore. I live in the old hospital building, and my guess is that perhaps some of you were born at Sheldon Memorial Hospital. It's now independent apartments, but it turns out that 80% of those are occupied by people 60 or older because there's that kind of demand. So our goal is to keep our elders in town, whatever their working background has been over the years. When we reach that point, as I think you know, people are living longer. So we have people who are active into their 90s, but others who may live into their 90s, but need a lot of help. So we hope that we will soon have a property. The developer will make an announcement. The developer keeps talking with different entities in Albion, the types of properties we're looking at, including Albion College. Again, no decision yet, and it will be up to the developer and the property owner to say that. But our goal, again, I think, is the laudable one of figuring out how do we keep as many of our seniors here in town. Again, there's about 1,500 people 60 and older already here. So questions? Did I go wildly astray? Okay.
I think you did a very good job. You included everything. Going back to the goal, we want to keep our elderly people here because they have invested a lot in the community. I'm an elderly person, even though I'm here for this better. And so, you know, I think I have a lot to offer, and many others also. And so, if we don't have a place to go when it's time for us to not climb upstairs again, then you lose that resource, the knowledge, the wealth, whatever. So we need to work on that. So we're just trying to give a refresher on where we are.
Do we have any questions from council members? Yeah, Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, guys. Thank you for coming. And thank you for the work that you're doing as well. Senior living is definitely something that's very necessary here in the community. We also don't want to see any of our community members being forced out of the community and having to find housing elsewhere. So I definitely appreciate the work that you're doing. This question, I don't know if you're prepared for it, but what has been the biggest hurdle that you guys have come up against in finding property and getting this development going thus far?
I think part of it was the great curveball that COVID threw into the process.
Yeah.
We were moving along. It was not only that the developer said, okay, well, we just need to wait a while because of the health concerns. But then the whole supply chain backed up and they say, we can't predict what a 2x4 is going to cost, or will there be a construction company available? So I think that was probably the biggest thing. The other thing was that they said, look, we need like 10 acres. So there weren't too many 10-acre plots that are within a mile or a mile and a half of downtown. Some of them just weren't available. The old hospital property out in West Erie, a lot of people said, well, that's pretty big. It turned out that there are 5 different owners of that parcel, so it would be hard for developers to say, well, who do I negotiate with? So some of those, but I think just COVID and then what happened in the construction industry was the biggest challenge.
Yes, thank you.
But like you said, that's all that we want is just to keep our seniors here. I know a whole community in Chelsea. So we want to be the new Chelsea. We want to keep them home.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you all for being here this evening. Yep,
We're gonna pass out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
We have brochures from the senior millage committee about all the different services that are offered for people 60 and older, and you may recognize the models on the cover of the
Thank
brochure.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, we noticed something.
Thank you all for being here. All right, next is our proclamation in honor of the anniversary of the Sister City program. So at this time, I would like to ask a few members of our delegation to come forth to the podium. I would like to ask Mark Terrell, who is the mayor of Noisy-le-Roi. I would like to ask Marie Frances Agnaw, who is the vice mayor of Noisy-le-Roi. And Caroline Desailly, who is the vice mayor of Bailly. As well, we have other members of the delegation here, and if they would like to stand to be recognized, I have Anique Athis Vimont, Lauren Darcy's, and Danielle Corgier. So this is a proclamation in honor of the anniversary of the Sister City program. Whereas in 1994, Sue Marcos, the president of the Greater Chamber of Commerce, began the preliminary discussions about creating a Sister City program with Noisy-le-Roi Friends. And whereas in September of 2000, the mayor of Noisy, Michael Collin, and a delegation from the Noisy Sister City Committee made an official visit to Albion. In June of 2002, a delegation from Albion, led by Mayor William Wheaton, traveled to Noisy for official ceremonies. This relationship was thus expanded in 2010 to also include Bailly Friends. And whereas the educational, social, and cultural exchanges achieved through the long-standing Sister City relationship between Albion and the cities of Noisy-le-Roi and Bailly have become a source of great joy and pride on both sides of the Atlantic. And whereas nearly 1,000 people have traveled back and forth between our cities, coming together to celebrate the importance of a continuing commitment to a more peaceful and enlightened future through people-to-people exchanges. And whereas local families from each community volunteer as host families, thus enabling visitors the unique opportunity to truly immerse themselves into the daily life within a different culture. And whereas more than 200 young adults from Albion have experienced the benefits of foreign travel, including greater self-confidence, greater cultural sensitivity, improved problem-solving skills, enhanced creativity, and whereas through the decades, the work and commitment of many dedicated stakeholders have kept this beautiful relationship alive. For this, the city would like to recognize Anique Vimont, president of the French Sister City Committee, and Francois Ahmet, president of Albion Sister City Committee in Noisy and Bailly, France. Mayola Dunklin, Mary Slater, and Diane Ginnenlilly of the French Sister City Committee in Albion. Now therefore be it proclaimed that today, the 18th day of September 2023, I, Victoria Garcia Snyder, Mayor of Albion, along with the members of City Council, do celebrate with the Sister City Committee on this special occasion to commemorate the anniversary of this long-standing relationship. Would like to say some words, please feel free.
Just a few words to thank you, Madam Mayor. And we are very honored of this proclamation. And we will propose at the next municipal council a proclamation to for this twinning. And the relationships between our cities is very strong during these years. And I was there 10 years ago in this city hall, and I want to recall the memory of Mayor Joe Domingo, who received there, and we enjoy to be there to imagine the future of this twinning, and it's so we are very touched of this proclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, for the first time visitors from the delegation, I'm sure you've heard of Mayor Joe Domingo. We are very happy that our city clerk is the wife of Mayor Joe Domingo. And so I had told her that many of you had shared fond memories of him and the time that you spent with him during your visits. Okay, next we have the Healthy Babies Proclamation. Do we have anybody in the gallery that is here as part of the committee? So if you would like to come on up.
Did we forget D and E? Did we forget D and E?
No, I'm doing Healthy Babies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So proclamation from the city of Albion that celebrates Healthy Babies Day of Albion on September 23rd, 2023. Whereas Healthy Babies Day, HBD, is a maternal infant health fair held the fourth Saturday in September. It serves Albion area parents who are expecting or have a child under 18 months old. And whereas the goal of Healthy Babies Day is to provide caregivers in the Albion area with resources and information that will positively influence the health and development of their babies, including increased knowledge about safe sleep practices, appropriate nutrition, and basic first aid. And whereas Healthy Babies Day includes workshops, information provided by vendors, and baby health essential kits. Anticipated accomplishments include increasing knowledge of and access to resources that will support healthier pregnancies and ensure that infants will be born healthy and continue to thrive. And whereas Healthy Babies Day will be holding its 15th annual Healthy Babies Day on September 23rd, 2023 at Kids and Stuff Children's Museum from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Therefore, be it resolved that the Albion City Council hereby acknowledges and congratulates the Albion Healthcare Alliance and the founders of Healthy Babies Day for 15 years of service to our community. So I'm going to hold on to this because I'm going to present it at the event on Saturday, but I want to give you both the opportunity to say a few words about the event. Sure.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Shaladen. I'm honored this year to be organizing Healthy Babies Day along with my friend Deborah here. We are thrilled this year to be bringing Healthy Babies Day back inside. The last several years, it's been held as a drive-through event due to the pandemic. This year, we're so excited that it's going to be back inside. We're at Kids and Stuff Museum, which is a brand new venue for us. We have over 25 vendors coming to share health and safety information for infants, a couple different breakout sessions for the community to engage with experts in a couple different subject areas. And I'm just so excited for the event. I hope that each of you share with your neighbors, your friends, your family, anyone who may have a young child or expecting a baby, that this event is happening. And as such, we brought some flyers that hopefully you can take and distribute as you see fit. Thank you.
And as I say a few words, because I'm gifted with the gab, she's going to pass around our flyers because the seniors did the same. So we're going to hit the other age cycle. My name is Deb Hadfield. Many of you know my husband, who was the walk guy downtown, Derek Hadfield. I sit on the Albion Healthcare Alliance Board. I'm the vice president. Sharon Hostetler, as many of you know, when the hospital closed in 2020, was one of many key folks who said, we've got to organize healthcare. Now that we don't have the hospital here, we've got to have an alliance around bringing healthcare to and keeping healthcare connected to our Albion folks. And so AHCA has many out branches. Albion Healthy Babies Day was grassroots, and then got connected and partnered with AHCA along with the Expo, the Health and Safety Expo in June, and now the community table and the navigators. And it is awesome under the umbrella, but also the collaboration with the Albion Community Foundation and all the Calhoun things, Calhoun County Foundation and various Michigan area. I'm babbling now. Sorry, the Michigan foundations and exciting things that are happening around the Michigan area. So I am excited to be a part of AHCA, excited to work with Amanda and Alfreda. And Vivian now on the board as well for a couple of years. So the exciting things that are coming, and it's exhausting, but also really fun to do Healthy Babies Day and all of these really fun things. So please come, please send the folks that you know that have little ones or caregivers, grandmas, even if the folks that have the babies can't come, grandmas and other folks come, because you know what, things have changed since they have had their babies. And if they're caregiving, they need to know the updated stuff too. So please come. Thank you so much for letting us speak today.
Of course.
Thank you for coming on Saturday.
Yes. Any questions for either of our presenters? All right, well, we'll see you on Saturday.
Yay. Thank you.
And then lastly, I am honored to read the proclamation for the 150th anniversary of St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church. Whereas what is now St. John the Evangelist Catholic Parish began in 1845 with the arrival of the Thomas Slowey family. And with the arrival of more Irish families in 1847, the first mass was said in the home of the John Lynch family by Reverend Father Thomas Cullen. And whereas to accommodate the growing number of Catholics in Albion, Father Peter Koopman purchased property on Cass Street on July 9th, 1866, in order to build a church. And when the Bishop of Detroit granted permission for a Catholic church to be built in Albion, the cornerstone of St. John the Evangelist Church was laid on September 25th, 1873. The church building was completed in 1875 to serve 45 Catholic families. And whereas in the early 1900s, a large number of immigrants came to Albion to work, increasing St. John's membership so that the original church was not large enough to accommodate the Catholic population. Plans to build a new church on the same site were announced in 1932, and members of the parish began raising the old church. The cornerstone of the new church was laid on November 19, 1933, and the new church was completed in 1934. Whereas in 1958, St. John the Evangelist Parish purchased 16 acres on Irwin Avenue to build a Catholic elementary school. The school building was completed in October of 1959 and had over 200 students in 6th grade. And whereas ground for a new Catholic church building to be attached to the former St. John's School was broken on Irwin Avenue on November 2002. Construction was completed in time for St. John's 318 parish families to celebrate Christmas there in 2003. And whereas throughout its history, St. John's parish community has provided countless acts of charity and service to the greater Albion community, especially to those in need. And on September 25th, 2023, the St. John the Evangelist Parish community will mark 150 years of worshiping God and serving the people of Albion, Michigan. Now therefore, I, Victoria Garcia Snyder, Mayor of the City of Albion, do hereby congratulate St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church of Albion, Michigan on the 150th anniversary of its founding and recognize the contributions of the parish and its members to the life of the Albion community and beyond. So this event will be held this Sunday out at the church on Irwin Avenue. If anybody would like to attend and help Catholic parish celebrate. Public comment. At this time, if there's anybody in the gallery that would like to stand and address council in regards to an agenda item, you may do so at this time, and 3 minutes is yours. All right, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Support. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed. Jackson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
French.
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yeah. Moving to closed session, 7:37 PM. Let Mayor Pro Tem Jackson have a seat. Thank you. I'll call us back to order at 8:28 PM. City Clerk Domingo, if you'll take roll call first, please.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
French,
Here.
Williams. And Mayor Snyder.
Here. Do I have a motion to approve of the consent calendar items?
Support.
In your package, you have the September 5th study session minutes and the September 5th regular session minutes. Do we have any questions? Edits? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve of the 3-year, the 2024, 25, 26 contract with the POAM? So move.
Support.
City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the 3-year contract with the Albion Clerical Alliance?
So move.
Support.
City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed,
Where are you at?
B.
Clerical.
Round B. Approving the contract for Clerical Alliance.
Oh.
Yeah, B.
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve the 3-year contract with the Technical Professional and Office Workers Association.
So move.
Support.
City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 2023-05, the establishment of the sewage disposal system?
So move.
Support.
City Manager Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So included in your packet is an ordinance that was drafted by the city's bond council. So this is the next step in our wastewater treatment plant improvement project. We need council to approve this ordinance, which really allows us or authorize us the issuance of 3 series of bonds totaling the 18 million. You all approved the 3 resolutions approving those loans to total the 18 million. So this just needs to be approved and published in our local paper before we can move forward with the closing process, which is the next step on our checklist for this USDA project. I've been advised by both our bond counsel as well as the city attorney, unlike our other or regular ordinances, this ordinance only requires 1 reading. So after tonight, if this is approved, it will then be published and will go into effect after tonight's meeting. City attorney, have I missed anything or is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I mean, you're exactly right. Normally we do 2 readings, but in this particular case, the Revenue Bond Act allows for adoption after 1 reading. And so it'll be effective after the normal time period that we assign to ordinances set forth in the Home Rule City Act.
Questions for city manager? Or you have a question for? Colin?
Just one quick question. What ordinance number would this be?
It is
2023-05.
You mean, are you referring to where?
City of the Fort.
So I asked actually the same question and our bond counsel advised that we don't actually integrate it into our set of ordinances. It's a standalone ordinance specific to bonds.
Thank you.
So we don't create, it won't go under any of the chapter of the existing ordinances. It'll be completely separate.
Okay, thank you. So that be noted, so we'll know.
Yeah, I asked him the same question. He said, yeah, we don't do that. So,
That's what
yeah.
I'm talking about.
Any other questions? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed, Yes. Jackson.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Next is our discussion on the flock safety system. In the package, you have the presentation that was given to us at our last meeting. We don't have anything here to approve. We just need to give Chief Cap some guidance on potentially what route we would like to take because of the amount of money that would take each year. We just need to give him some guidance on how to proceed. I don't see him, so.
He's gone.
Now, how do we know?
Chief Kip, are you in the back?
Fire. Chief.
Five.
Chief.
So we're at the flag.
We're blocking one?
Yeah.
What do you want? We don't
Thing
know.
that I
what you-
understand is
I don't know what I want.
you're not flocking to the council meeting.
Right, I know.
Okay, you guys being quick.
So, I think the biggest issue we have with this is funding and where that money is gonna come from. I have no answers for you as far as funding goes. And I think it's a good idea for the city. But $3,000 a camera a year is a lot of, well, so.
Because the total is 56,000 a year, correct?
54, I think is what it was with. Yeah. 18 cameras,
Team,
yeah. So there's 9 entrances to the city, and so it'd be 1 camera in and out on each of those entrances. I think there's a lot of things we could do different, and I think we could start smaller with maybe 4 or something like that. Right, but I mean, I don't really have that answer because I just don't know how much money went, and even with 4, I'm not sure how we go about doing that. Do we take the main ways in and out of town and put 1 way, or do we just pick 2 ways and put 2 cameras at those locations, you know? I mean, there's really 3 main ways into the city as far as I'm concerned, Michigan Avenue both ways and northeast, but.
We have video surveillance technology already in our city, correct?
We have some, I mean, the biggest issues that we have is we get a lot of video, and I gave this example at the last meeting, like the drive-by shooting down at on Sycamore Street. We've got great video of that. I can see the cars go by, we can almost tell they're shooting from them, but it doesn't tell me who owns the car. And so it does me absolutely no good, other than if I found a car that looked like that and it happened to have a gun in it, I might be able to tie it back to that shooting. Where these cameras would give us the license plate of that car and the make and the
So
model.
it's a higher resolution camera.
Yeah, very high resolution camera, right? And it's aimed at a certain area that you basically can't get by without taking a picture. It's very similar to the cameras that they use on the turnpikes now to pay tolls. Take a picture of your license plate, they send you. a toll. Yeah.
That's right.
yeah, they read the
We
little
got one.
things in the window.
I got one. Every 3 months, I got one from being into another state.
Yeah,
With the $20 fine, you're not paying it because you didn't even know.
Councilman Williams actually had his hand up earlier.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So what do you think the chances of getting grant funding for something like this will be?
the hardest part about that with grant funding is the same hard part about our budgeting is that this isn't a one-time payment. You
Yeah.
know, if it was a one-time payment, it would be a lot easier, but to say you're gonna get something that's gonna last 5, 10 years even is almost impossible to get that kind of grant funding. And so this is the best product out there on the market right now, and it's what everybody's using. So if I have it, I have access now to Kalamazoo's and to Jackson's and tying all that stuff together. But if we went with a different company, then I wouldn't be included in all that. And so it's kind of like Microsoft, when they got the whole Windows thing, and that's how they ran computers and gave it away. You're either in the group or you're not.
Right.
So.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Yes, so I gotta go back to when you presented it to us.
Mhm.
And you spoke of being able to turn the cameras one way versus another way, and you said which would be the best way. And then you also spoke of maybe doing 4.
Right.
Can you come back with that
Yeah.
amount to see if we can get a grant or try to get a grant for that? Because I believe we need something in our city.
Right,
And if you want to go to something cheaper, as what I was asking for from the beginning,
right,
I don't oppose to it.
Yeah.
But I prefer to have something of this magnitude in our city so that you are working with all the other cities so that we can continue to connect.
right.
And I believe that can happen because I know you know some other ways as well.
I don't know about other ways, but
I'm talking about corresponding.
Yeah.
It comes your way.
right, there, I do know that the sheriff is working on this as well. And wants to add cameras. We've talked with Marshall, we're in talks with Battle Creek. We all met and we're all looking at this. The question is, where is that money coming from and where do we start? And so, if we put 4 cameras up and the sheriff puts 4 cameras up and Battle Creek puts 4 cameras up and Marshall puts 4 cameras up, then we're making a web basically that'll cover more areas, but how fast that happens, I don't know. I do think you have to start somewhere, and I don't know really what that answer is. I mean, 4 cameras is $12,000. Obviously. Don't necessarily need council approval for that if it's budgeted, so we could move along those lines. Once we go over that, we would need council approval, and so that's kind of why I'm here tonight. I wanted twofold approval. I wanted your approval to do this because this is controversial in some places, reading people's license plates as they go by and so forth. And 2, if we go over that, at what point do we say too many, not enough type of thing, and where does that funding come from? 12,000 isn't outrageously crazy out of my budget, I don't think, especially with some of the forfeiture money that we have. But again, that's the forfeiture money is not a never ending pot of money either, so.
So I was trying to understand. Is there a contract that we sign? Like, is it for a certain number of years, or is this, if you do it now until the end of,
It's a year by year contract.
okay, year by year.
And then I think there's a 60-day out clause in it. I have not given that to the city attorney to review yet. It's a pretty standard contract that they have with everybody, so I didn't think that was a huge issue to do. And we haven't moved along that far yet, so I didn't think that was necessary to review contracts yet, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. All right, so this is what I'm thinking. And I think this is along the lines of what you were saying. So if we looked at budgeting, because we got budgeting coming up, 12 to 24,000 for the 8 cameras. And then see where we fall in that. And then if it's already in the budget, or you have the capacity in your budget, without overextending yourself. I don't think I'd be opposed to looking at that.
I would,
Yeah,
that would be a
I
problem.
mean, especially after reviewing some of the incident reports
Right.
as of late, right?
Right, I mean, I do see in certain instances where this is gonna give us information. I mean, I guess the hard thing for me is if we do. Let's say we did 4 cameras and we want to do it in 4 different locations, so do we face them out or do we face them in, if we face them out. I get things leaving the city, which is good, because if we have a stolen car, things like that, we have a direction of travel. Of course, if it's a stolen car, I already have a license plate, so it doesn't really matter. But then if we have stolen cars coming into the city, I'm not getting them because we only get them if they're going out. And so I can't catch them because they're already leaving before I know they're stolen, type of thing, So it's a give and take. I mean, and I think we just have to make that decision on which way we want to do that. Or we could do, like I said, we could do 4 cameras, but only 2 locations. So like a few of them up on North Eaton and out of Michigan Avenue this way. So anybody coming off the highway, we generally get, but I don't have, I mean, there's give and take on all of them. And I think I could sit down with my staff and probably come up with a reasonable plan and bring that back to you as far as what we were going to do with them, but.
Do we have as much problem with stolen cars as we do with people that come into the city and do illegal things and then run out?
I don't think we have a huge problem with stolen cars. Just recently, I don't know if anybody's followed the news, but there's been a lot about Hyundais and some other cars being stolen.
Yes.
We've had the same problem. We've had a couple of them broken into with an attempt to steal them. I don't think we've actually had any stolen yet, because I guess our criminals aren't as good as some other criminals, but.
Well,
Thank God.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
I'm not gonna say the name, but I don't like it going filtering through text to text that we're on the top 10 and one of the cities that's worse than us are not even on there.
Well, so this is my take on this, and this is what bothers me about it. If you took our 4 square miles and dropped them in a lot of other cities. In their worst part of the city,
Best
it's,
place to
we're
live.
nowhere near as bad as.
We
other
know
parts of
that.
the city.
Right.
Right,
But it's
And so,
something
right.
consecutive for how many months?
right,
now?
I know, it frustrates me that
Years.
we get that bad reputation. Because of a few people that do things to each other, basically, and it's not an unsafe place to be.
Right.
I know, I don't think anybody here for the festival over the weekend found it to be unsafe at any given time, and. We actually had a pretty good weekend, so, those numbers don't show the truth about Albion.
And speaking to the festival, I want to commend you. I'm sure you had something to do with the police presence at the different locations and the state police presence that was here in town. So I definitely appreciate that.
They took care of Eden Street.
Mhm.
My house there on the corner, all I saw was flashing lights for about 6 hours just to cross.
Some of them's afraid to come back out too, you know that, right?
I have to give
They got-
a lot of credit to the new post commander, Barry Schrader. He stepped up back when we had some of the incidents early this year. There was a special team that was working only in Benton Harbor from the 5th district, and he got them involved in Albion, and they've been in and out of Albion almost the entire summer. And so that group being involved, just coming into town occasionally and doing some things, they've got some guns off the street and done a few things that we just haven't been able to do because of our staffing. So I think we're getting off topic though on what we're
Yes, we
supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
So I think,
Motion.
well, if you can just come up with some, obviously, I think we're all in agreement.
If you
this is
can-
something that we would like.
Yeah, if we could make a motion to purchase up to 8 cameras based on funding, I think
So
that would be a start.
Make the most.
Councilman Fred, make it all-
I would move that we,
Yes, it's
she
you.
called on me.
No, it's her to do. I need to stop.
Wow. I yield the floor to Councilwoman Davis.
Thank you,
Councilwoman Davis.
as it should be. I would like to move that we purchase up to 8 cameras for the flock safety system.
Or at least investigate the cost.
To investigate the cost. You said up to.
Yeah, if we could have purchased up to 8, I'll work with the city manager and the finance
Okay.
director to figure out where we can come up with funding.
Okay.
I would support that motion.
To take it higher than 8? Than 12?
I think we can come back and see how these work, and then we can come back after that.
We can always add more later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Marching orders.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
that really should have been a roll call vote.
I was gonna say, because it was dollars and cents, I was just gonna say that.
But he was just investigating.
It was dollars. It was dollars.
Investigating costs, but we hadn't approved.
Is it,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, well,
Yes, it should be a roll call.
I gotcha. Go ahead, city clerk, let me go.
Councilmember Davis? Yes. French?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Reed? Yes. Jackson?
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve, no, are we just discussing? Discussion for the black party ordinance? Attorney Hartness.
So move.
it's just discussion.
Discussion.
I got the list now.
So as council is aware, we had a block party come up recently and the city really doesn't have an ordinance to address that and Councilwoman Jackson had requested that we look into this. So the city manager and I dug around in some other communities and found some permit applications and some municipalities that have existing ordinances. And so that's what you have in your packet tonight. And so we wanted to get some direction from city council as to what they want to see. You know, from my perspective, I think obviously there's a permit process, which is what I think the city should have. The city can easily craft an application for a block party or a special event or whatever we want to call it. But you know, some of the things that I'm seeing that are consistent across all the municipalities is, you know, we've got one in here from this one's from Portage, and they require 51% of the property occupants to basically sign off on there being a block party. The other ordinance is included is from Allen Park. They require 90% of the properties in the block party area to sign off. I think there's probably should be some variation of that. I mean, for council to decide, I mean, what level of percentage of people need to sign off, but I think that's great. I love absolutely, and this is just the attorney in the Portage ordinance, they require each participating property to provide proof of their homeowner's insurance, which I think that I think is excellent because it minimizes the city's liability in allowing these events to go on. And then there's provisions for barricades, access to streets. I think ideally, in my mind, how I would see this working is it's a permit process. They have to provide the information that we set forth in the ordinance, get a certain percentage of the people in the designated area to sign off on it. Some very strict, I think, stop times put in there because obviously, block parties, aside from the general noise that large groups of people generate, if there's music or whatever, the surrounding communities aren't going to want to hear that into the wee hours of the morning. I think if we're talking about closing streets and using barricades, that's something that the chief's office is going to need to A, look at, and B, sign off on before council approves, the issuance of a permit. Obviously, if we're closing a local street, that's one thing, but obviously if it's a major street where there's heavy traffic, that's an entirely different thing. So I think that's something the chief would need to take a look at before we do it. But so I'm certainly open to input, but those were my thoughts as it relates to a future ordinance. I think when we talk about times, the Allen Park ordinance had nothing earlier than 9 a.m. and nothing later than 11 p.m., which I thought was pretty decent. And then there's, I think that ordinance actually has a revocation clause. They can revoke the permit if they mess up, but so we're hoping to get some input or feedback from council, and then we can craft an ordinance and bring it back to council for ideally a discussion / first reading.
So a couple of thoughts in reading these. The first is having a high percentage of approval of folks in the block. What I worry about is that one family who doesn't want to have it happen, and they vote no. What do you think the relationship with the rest of the block is going to be after they say that? And so I would say that if you're going to put a percentage, it better be half or maybe 55%, so that there's cover to those neighbors. And you should make it as anonymous as possible so that you don't divide your community around a decision about a block party that one family with young kids doesn't want to happen because of whatever reason, safety concerns, late night, chances to get in trouble, whatever. And they end up being alienated from the rest of the community who want to party. And so I would say that percentage is pretty low. And then the second comment, I received a complaint from someone who lives where that last block party happened, and she was not allowed into her house because the people guarding the street walks wouldn't let her drive in. She came in at the end of a second shift and couldn't get to her house because they wouldn't let her drive through her driveway. And I mean, that's got to be fixed in some way. I'm not sure how, but I think that if you're going to have a block party and people are working second shift and can't get home, I mean, that's just ridiculous. So whatever we craft, and I agree, we need to craft something, but you got to be thinking about those people who aren't going to participate in that block party. And how do we safeguard their reputations, their connections to the community in which they live, because they may not want something that is popular.
Right.
So, go ahead, Councilman Davis, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, as I was reading it, I thought about if you have, and I know there are two separate activities, a block party, if we get it from whatever to 11 on the block, but in a park, it has to stop at dusk at 9. So.
Well, depending upon the time of year,
There's such a discrepancy.
dusk could be 5 PM. Or in the fall, and it might be 9 PM in the summer, so.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's just a discrepancy. Do I have my block party on the block? Or do I have an event at one of the parks? And that will be a discrepancy. But I was just looking at Ithaca, and it seems to be, okay. Now, it seems to be, logical, but I just wonder, how would it go over in terms of getting permission from neighbors? That seems like something that is going to be very difficult in this community.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson had her hand up.
I just wanted to get that definition that we talked about before of a block party. That, I think that's very important because we said it really could just be a party.
Right. Well, that's what I want to mention is,
That's
my concern is private residences having large parties that we can't control because we have no ordinances that really do that.
right.
And the last block party that was approved was supposed to be done at 9, but it was on private property, and everything that was done on private property, there was nothing we have over control over that. And then we had the other block party earlier this summer that was advertised that they never got approval for. But again, as long as the road isn't closed, there's really not a whole lot public safety can do other than deal with loud noise complaints or things like that. And so I do think we need some type of ordinance that controls the size of parties on private property without permits and so forth.
Yes,
So.
that's where I'm at, before I can get to any.
Councilman Williams.
Yep, I kind of like the definition that the city of Portage has here. A block party attendee shall mean an organized group of residents who live in or directly adjacent to a specified area or neighborhood. And then when they talk about the 51% of neighbor participation as opposed to the 91 from the other city back here.
Alan,
Yeah, and then with Allen, city of Allen, you also had to have signatures from each one of those, signatures and addresses from each one of those. I think the 51 is reasonable. I think it's also doable with people who work at different times. So if they want to actually do something community wise, like based on that neighborhood, you actually get the participation of the neighborhood and not something that substitutes a club atmosphere, right? And I think what we've run into is the club
yes, we have.
on the street.
So kind of talking about the homeowners, the insurance verification with the amount of rentals that we have. That's something to take into consideration if we're gonna try to implement that as part of an ordinance. Is there's not necessarily homeowners.
Well,
If,
Yes.
I don't know if Director Arnold is here, I think the rental properties have to have renters.
Everybody, if you renting a home or even.
But it's not homeowners insurance. That's why I'm saying we need to clarify
oh, okay.
so that it's not just homeowners.
Well, we could just say, I mean,
Yeah, it's easier.
Halfway asleep back there.
So when you're dealing with tenants, it's still always the property owner's responsibility what happens on the property. So any application that they're bringing to the city, it has to have the property owner's approval.
Yeah.
So they're going to be a responsible party in any situation.
I can imagine a landlord not wanting a block party taking place at his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would not.
Many of the property owners don't even live in the area. But yeah, just things like the verbiage of not just necessarily having homeowners or homeowners, because we have so many renters.
Or we could just say proof that each participating. I don't want to say parcel, but each participating address within the block party has to provide proof of insurance, whether that be homeowners or. Renters or general liability or whatever.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
word, liability insurance.
Yeah.
That's the key word, liability insurance.
Just in general on this, so we can have some
Yeah.
room on it for. I mean, we've had renters come to us to try and make zoning or building permit applications for the properties that they're living in, and unfortunately, we have to tell them you need the property owner's permission. Obviously, the permit you're talking about there wouldn't come through my office, but anything that does, we verify that the property owner is signing off on it.
Sounds good. All right, any other discussion?
So what I've gathered from council is we want at least a 50% threshold of participating or of addresses within the block party area to say we're in favor of this. Obviously, we're gonna go with the liability insurance and then something built in there that, you know, if they're using barricades to close off the street,
Stop.
persons within that area still need to be able to access their home and driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything else that is like a must have from council that you're seeing in the samples here that we're, I mean, obviously, we'll put together, I think the application portion of it and the permit issuance portions are pretty standard and we'll take care of that, but
I kind of like the 30 days as well. That way you kind of know in advance.
the applying for it at least 30 days
Yeah.
before the event.
Yeah, because we've been getting like 1 week.
Last-
She said it's that, yeah, we've been getting it 1 week and then we have to fight.
All right, we good on this topic? Yep. All right,
Okay, we'll bring a draft ordinance to council at a future meeting. Well, so actually, one of the definitions that Councilman Williams read that I thought was actually good is when they talk about a block party, it's an organized group of residents who live in or directly adjacent to a specified area or neighborhood. So it's intended to not include like, hey, everybody from outside the city come and join this giant party. It's
Because we need an ordinance that makes it illegal to do, so we can stop it. If you don't have an ordinance, we can't stop it. That's my issue.
So maybe we'll need to visit that.
like a whole nother house party ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay,
That you gotta have a grant for over 100 people and all that.
we can try to, maybe we try to just do this as a collective thing. We can have a block party ordinance and like a house party ordinance. We'll come to council with something for that as well.
all right, sounds good. Thank you all. Next is our discussion to respond to citizens' public comments. The Councilmember Williams had requested this be put on the agenda.
Yep, thanks, Mayor. So I've got a lot of feedback from people who've come here to speak to council, kind of feeling like they're almost being dismissed in their questions, but we know proper decorum is us not engaging with the residents as they come and, you know, air their grievances or opinions about things. But sometimes that drops off because the feedback they're necessarily looking for, they don't actually end up getting. And I was just trying to figure out how we bridge that gap, you know, do we do a Q&A, do we add a Q&A section to the website where the questions that's asked are answered, or, you know, is there some way that we can actually provide that feedback to them in an effective way where it's not redundant or repetitive, you know, from meeting to meeting, we're continually answering the same questions.
Mayor Tim Jackson.
What about the precinct, the person that's in the precinct answering that question?
That was mentioned before,
What?
but I mean, I get that as well. I do. But like I said, what about the repetitive nature of the questions that people are
And
asking?
over and over.
You see what I'm saying?
I had a very neat experience today where I actually followed up in person with a concern of one of our constituents. What happened is, city manager Snyder answered the question, and it was regarding taxation and things like that in the community. Answered the question, sent it to me, sent the letter to me, and I made a copy for the resident as well as myself. And we went over each line of what had been written in terms of clarification. A lot of times when concerns come, it's a misunderstanding.
Mhm.
So the clarification was very well received, you know, that we took time to answer her concern. It wasn't what she wants, because one person's tax bill does not repair a road, you know, or a street. But everybody knows that, you know, we're doing what we can with what we have, and it's going to take time. And that message was delivered. We walked away, we had a hug, and we walked away. And I don't expect to hear that again, because it's a better understanding. Sometimes it may take some personal contacts from the council person.
No, and I understand that, I do. But what about the rest of the community members that were sitting in the audience, or those that were viewing at home and thought that that question was a good question, but they still don't yet have that answer? And that's what I was kind of speaking to, is, you know, sometimes good questions are good questions, and you know, you like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, you know what I mean? And they don't get to engage in that same feedback.
Maybe what you're saying is maybe a summary to answer the question, and maybe play questions you may have or something like that, and identify some questions, and then write a short narrative or identify what an answer to that particular question may be, just for the general public.
I know City Manager Snyder wanted to chime in here.
Go ahead.
I'll let Councilmember French go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to provide any info if you have public comments. I view our council meetings as, yes, it's a time for us to handle city business, but it's also a time for all of your constituents to come and address the council. This is their time to interact with the members that they've elected to represent their areas. So if you have members from the precinct who get up and ask questions, if you may not know the info, I'm happy to follow up to help clarify or answer their questions, or I'm sure other department heads who may deal with their question or area are happy to provide that info. But I view these meetings as our residents' time to interact with the council. So if there are questions or info that you need from us, please let us know. I usually jot down what public comments are, the questions, so that way I can follow up with the individual council member if I know which area that they live in. So I'm always happy to do that. I know my department heads and other staff members are happy to do that as well. We just need to know if you have questions. And I also try, if it is a question that I know could impact a lot of our residents, I do try to follow up with council via email. So anything that I'm sending out to you guys over the email, share with your precincts and your constituents to help try to get that info out as well.
Any other questions or comments?
I think it's sufficient.
Okay. Sorry, Councilman.
Sorry, I just, one of the things that I've done, if someone has the temerity to come and talk and complain about something that's in my precinct, I make a motion to them to stay out and then touch base. And I think we all do that. We also have to respect the idea that some people want to come and voice their concern and be loud and vociferous in their concern and complaining. But no answer that we give them in that moment is going to make them happy. And so we end up just sort of going around in a circle, which adds time to the meeting, prevents us from getting on with our day. When a one-on-one, as Vivian has described, is very effective at assuaging concerns, getting answers from our city manager or our staff. Because that's what most citizens who have a complaint is. They want the one-on-one contact, they want the one-on-one engagement. That's why they elected us.
Yes, okay, right.
I think if you tell them, I know Mayor Atchison used to. People would come and they'd have their say about things and he'll say, can your council person speak with you after the meeting? And the council person after the meeting would talk to them and work with them, you know, whatever the problem was. I don't think that we just sit them down or just let them, you know. I think we have to dignify the fact that they came and that they spoke, but that we cannot answer you here now. But your council person will get in touch with you. And work it.
Right, we have a motion to approve resolution 2023-24. That's the resolution that's on your desktop. That's for the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy.
Support.
City Manager Snyder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and I apologize for having to revise the agenda, but we literally got this agreement, I want to say like 20-30 minutes after Clerk Domingo published our packet last week. So this is the formal grant agreement for the Eagle Dam Risk Reduction Grant that we put in for the Albion Dams project. So the city's application was approved as submitted in the amount of $1 million with a local match contribution of $200,000. We did also secure additional grant funding through the Fisheries Habitat Grant Program for $150,000. So now our match is reduced to $50,000. So this helps us move forward with the next phase in the dams feasibility study. I know 3 out of the 5 options that were presented to last summer are removal. And that's kind of what the state is pushing to return the waterways back to their natural habitat or natural flow. So this will cover the cost for our engineer firm or the engineer firm to move forward with designing what that would look like for our community. Just an update on the feasibility study. They did get that final sample sediment collected, so they're finalizing that report. That'll come before council for you all to be presented with what those options are. So we're just looking to have this grant agreement approved so that we can move forward with that. It has been reviewed by the attorney's office and we are recommending approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comment for City Manager Snyder? Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
It's on page 20.
12.
Yes, please. So it's talking about, you said just these couple of dams here. The Kalamazoo. And then we spoke of, isn't that the one in Victory Park?
Yep.
Okay, because it says south branch of Victory Park.
Yep.
Okay.
This is all of them, right?
Yes, so there are 5 dams here in our community, so this will impact all of them.
So down at the bottom, I see that where it says the dams 4 and 5 are located, okay, on north, so that'd be all of them. So that's actually taking out that part and letting it flow, okay. We'll make sure I get clear understanding, you know, once it gets started, questions.
Yes, and I know I've had a lot of people reach out to my office saying that we've already decided that we're removing them. And I just want to put that on, we have not made that decision yet. So we're wrapping up the feasibility study. We did have that public meeting last July, I believe it was. And they presented 5 different options. Like I said, the 3 out of the 5 were removal options. One was to just leave it and do nothing, or there was another, can't remember what the exact details are. So I just want to say no decision has been made. Council, you all will make that final determination. I know administration, we are recommending removal just based off of their grant fund dollars and funding available to help remove and nothing available to help maintain. So I just wanted to put that out there that nothing has been decided. It will be decided when you are presented with that final feasibility study.
Any other questions or comments? Any questions, Domingo?
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Future agenda items. Anything Would like to be brought up?
So, I mean, well, you already talked about it's gonna be brought back anyway. Right, okay.
Okay. Public comments. If there's anybody in the gallery that would like to stand and address council, you may do so at this time, and 3 minutes is yours. Okay. City managers report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So a copy of my report was included in the packet, and there's just one thing that I want to highlight, so. Don't want to keep any of us much longer. Eagle released the draft fiscal year 2024 intended use plan last week. Containing the project priority list for the drinking water state revolving fund. I'm very happy to share that the city of Albion made the funding cutoff with a 50% grant. You can recall our application was for a $19.2 million water improvement project. So to receive, and this is just draft, so tentatively we are approved for 50% grant. So that is a $9.6 million grant. An additional $533,000 loan at a 2% interest rate. So the city, we will just need to finance that remaining $9.1 million. For the total project cost of $19.2 million. This will include the building of the second water tower, improvements to our water treatment plant, and a lot of lead service line replacement here in our community. With working with Whiteman and Associates, when we started to do this, they also built into the estimated project costs an additional $2.6 to $3.1 million for roadway improvements. So since we will be replacing the water main, a part of the DWSRF funding is they will cover 1 lane of roadway. So obviously we don't want to dig up, repair, and then just have one smooth lane of road, and then the other half is still in the poor condition. I think our residents would probably be more upset than if we just left it than what it would be. So they did build that in. We do have other options to secure funding to cover that, so that we are really taking advantage of the funding to repair what's underneath the road and then completely resurface above the road. So we are really making the most out of these grant dollars. So I share all of this with you because we have to make some decisions pretty quickly. To take advantage of this program, Eagle has released like a tight timeline. So we've already had an initial kickoff meeting with Whiteman and Associates. They've already started working on this internally. I think we're talking with Mickey, it's going to be like 140 hours a week that their staff will be spending on getting this project designed and ready to go. We have to have it fully designed and out for bid by early spring of next year, which may seem like a lot of time, but there's a lot that goes into it. So at our first October 2nd meeting, Mickey Bender will be here to present on this. They will provide a proposal for them to begin actually doing the work. So this is really great news for our community, but we have some decisions to make. So council, I just want you all to start thinking about this so that we can move forward and take advantage of this opportunity. When talking with Mickey, I don't think our city has received this level of capital improvements in well over 30 years. So we could really do some heavy improvements to our infrastructure, which is well overdue. So.
Now, was this just the water tower or is the water tower and?
So it'd be the second water tower, improvements to the water treatment plant, and then lead line replacement and several areas.
Okay.
When looking
Yeah,
at the
that's
map.
I
pretty
thought it
much-
was the lead line. Yeah.
Yeah, when we looked at the proposed map, pretty much there'll be all areas of the community will be impacted by this. More importantly, by having that additional water tower, everybody will reap the benefit of that. So good news.
While they're doing the bridges and water tower and things, are they gonna clean the trees out of the river?
Along over by the North Albion Street. I'm not sure. I would have to follow up with the project engineer regarding that.
Because there's a lot of our trees that's down in the water
Yep.
And I know over by Holland, there's quite a few that needs to be taken out of the water and if you leave it in there, it's just gonna continue to, and even down by the water tower, by the water. Thing, it's just gonna continue to make a mess.
Yeah, I can follow up with our project engineer on that, but I know when the American Legion started the project at Barnes Park.
Yeah.
The MDNR, they shared a lot of info with us, and if the tree, although it's fallen over, if it's started to grow or has secured itself in the waterway, or especially along the shore, we can't remove that because that could affect the embankment or the shoreline. So they have a lot of restrictions and requirements. So I will follow up with the engineer and I can follow up with you.
Because as long as they stay there, you're never gonna be able to canoe or anything down through there.
And that's all I have. There's also individual department updates, but I just really wanted to share that info with you all and really get you to start thinking about it because we will have to make some decisions here.
Just off the top of your, just off the top of your head, what are our options in terms of taking advantage of this? Where is the money going to, the matching?
Yep, so similar to what we're doing with our wastewater treatment plant, we could utilize USDA to secure either grant funding or loans in terms of bonds. There's also another option to work with the county. The county can secure bond funding for us and we would just work with them to do that. In terms of the road, we can borrow money against our Act 51 dollars. So again, taking out another loan that will help us cover those costs. So there are options and Mickey will be able to go over that with you all.
Okay.
But I think the USDA is probably our best bet for the additional 9.1 for water improvements. And then all of this will be paid out of our water fund. So our water and sewer are enterprise funds, meaning the fees that we charge our residents should cover the cost for capital improvements and things like that. So it will not impact the general fund.
Right, okay.
Quick question.
Yep.
All right. I know we're not gonna go through it all, but I see the rental registration mentioned under the planning and building. And I was wondering if we could, water bills just went out. I was gonna say if we could get something sent out with the water bills, but rental registration don't start until what, January possibly?
No, so we've been working to get the notices finalized between Safe Belt and I know our attorney's office have reviewed them, so they will go out here within the next week or so.
So we're sending something out.
Yes, so everybody who owns a rental property or who needs to participate will receive an actual notice. They've also been working with the new assessor to make sure we have appropriate contact and make sure that list. So it's taken us longer than anticipated, but we will be getting those notices out here very soon.
So it's not going to every home?
No, only if you own rental properties here.
Okay, can I make a suggestion that on the next water bill, we still send something, a notification off?
It says like a
Because we have people that own properties that rent them that may not be registered as landlords. And they wouldn't otherwise receive that notification.
Anything else for city manager? Councilmember comments.
I got one.
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to Billy Beard and the Chamber of Commerce for the phenomenal job that they did this year on the Festival of the Forts. One of the best times I've had in several years. Just a beautiful event. They had so many activities for the kids, the participation from Blue Ox, so many other organizations that it'd be difficult to name them all. But just overall, I think they did an exceptional job. Definitely. Yeah. So thank you.
So kind of piggyback, definitely Billy is, the person that you see and the name that you recognize with the festival, but he has his chamber board that works very hard and all the volunteers and the volunteers, I think,
All
are
the
the ones
volunteers.
that truly make the difference when it comes to a 4-day event like we had. So much was going on very little issues from what I've been made aware of. So along with Billy and his team, I want to thank Director O'Brien and his team.
Yes.
We know we're shorthanded, but you all stepped up and definitely made sure that the roads were clean, sidewalks were clean. You know, the crosswalks were, ready. Chief Kip and his staff.
Phenomenal job.
Being diligent, working with other agencies. When it comes to the old school reunion committee, Glenn Williams, his fabulous wife, Leslie Spicer Williams, in their committee. There were so many people that had a hand in making this weekend fabulous, not only for our residents, but for the thousands of visitors that we had descended on our community. And if you look at the pictures, and there's so many pictures on social media, everybody has smiles.
Yep.
Kids are having fun. So there was just countless thank yous to all that had a hand in showcasing our community.
If I can just add, we were talking about it last week and about Thursday, even Friday, we looked out, there were so many more people in our community. You could see parking lots were full, along downtown was full, our crew was out, and there was just a vibe that it was going to be a good weekend. And I would like to echo, this past weekend was a wonderful time here in our community. Yes, everything looked great. Thank you, Director O'Brien and your crew for making sure everything was prepped, ready to go. Billy Beers, Chamber Board, all the volunteers. It just,
Yes.
we needed that. Yeah, we needed
Yeah,
that.
And the,
needed that.
We did.
Mr.
the
Carey.
parade was very nice.
Yeah.
It was 37 entries, so that's unusual. So I think we can only move forward from here. This is a good foundation, and we do this every year, one way or the other, then it is going to be beneficial for the whole community. I put the unionized construction jobs from Blue Oval battery plant. There's going to be a job fair, and that has been announced on the 28th, and it's at the Opportunity School. And there are several other things. This is hunger by the numbers in Albion, and I didn't know if council members had to receive this, but it gives us an indication in terms of where we are in terms of child poverty rates as well as family rates. So that's just good reading materials. And of course, I put a card on for the 5th precinct meeting, and everyone is invited to attend. Hopefully we'll have a succinct, informative meeting on Thursday, the 21st at Opportunity School.
And if you guys have social media presence, really pledge the Healthy Babies event. This is, good. It's free stuff, free services. And so we know so many people who are in now know about this. So if you get the opportunity, make sure you push that out to your constituents.
And if they haven't contributed any Pampers, they need Pampers.
Okay, diapers are needed. Sounds good. Any other council member comments? Do you have a motion?
So moved. You gotta excuse Councilman Waller.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Motion to excuse Councilman Waller.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned 9:27 PM. Thank you all. Sticking in there.